Okay. So, hi, Whitney.
How
Nice
are
to
you?
meet you.
You too.
I'm good too. So, I'm from A Geek Traveller. My name is Ana Calado. So, for me, and congrats for the episode of
Thank
Brenda.
you so much, Anna.
So, for me, Accused has been a different kind of drama that has a strong, brave, and powerful storytelling because it talks about things that are important to be discussed in society, such as sexual assault that happens to your character, Brenda. How was for you to be part of this project?
Completely surreal. I mean, I see the billboards around LA and I'm genuinely like, oh my God, Howard Gordon, I got it. Like, my first instinct is like, I can't wait to see that. And then I'm like, I'm in that. It's just like, because it's also shooting it. We were in Toronto. It was, during the pandemic, sort of the tail end, but everyone was in masks. We were all very kind of in this like sort of concurrent world. It sort of felt like we weren't, on some level when it was done, I was like, did I just dream that? Because I was also in this flow state of complete surrender with playing this character because I really wanted to shake my coping mechanisms and my default ways that I self-soothe. And I'm not saying I was like trying to be a method actor. I don't know, maybe I was, but I just really wanted to, shake my habits. Like, I mean, my mannerisms, I didn't want Brenda and myself to ever be conflated by the viewer. So I was even like practicing her mannerisms differently. And, her hair was different. I was wearing different perfumes. I was eating different. Like, I was really just trying to, you know, stay in her state of mind because I knew that if I got uncomfortable or scared, I might just like default to me. And I didn't want anyone watching this to go like, oh, Whitney Cummings just kind of popped out there for a minute. Like, oh, that's I was buying this whole Brenda thing. And then for me to ruin the flow of the story or the power of the story by creating a distraction, by talking the way I talk or doing stand up the way I do stand up, so I, method acting, I'm sure there's a place for it. But if you're a female comedian playing a less successful female comedian, I just had to kind of really make sure that I didn't go into quote Whitney Cummings. And on set, I would say all the time, I was like, did Whitney Cummings just like rear her ugly head in the scene? I felt like Whitney Cummings just came out. Did you guys see her? Because I think she's like trying to get in this show, And so it was very surreal to try to constantly be going, I'm playing someone that I could have very easily been had I not had this primordial instinct to heal myself. Brenda, she is the sort of poster child for self-sabotage. She self-destructs. And I don't want to say what she's doing in life is wrong. She should be able to live the way she lives, but we just don't have a society that can accept that a woman who's 40 and drinks all day and that I feel like there's places in Greece where Brenda would really thrive, like people would really go, she's awesome, and going on stage, doing stand up, she's very, I think she thinks of herself as like sex positive and very sexual, but I think if she examined herself more closely, she would know that she uses sex to have power over people and to just build her shame engine to justify, you know, not having real intimacy, because I think real intimacy terrifies her. She's had no practice with it. What was the question? Because I'm really rambling.
Yeah, how was for you to be part of this project? You answered my question, so.
But it's like, I was just listening to you just as you were starting, and I was just like, I'm on this show. So I'm still like processing the fact that I got to be on it. And, the first episode is Michael Chiklis, and I watched that episode and I was on the edge of my seat. I'm in the show. I know, like, I was on the edge of my seat. So it's just, it transcends the fact that even I know this is something that was fabricated by, 200 amazing artists in Canada. And I'm still like on the edge of my seat, and a testament to the great Howard Gordon, who, made it. He did 24, he did Homeland, of course, and the magic on it. Even when we were making it, it felt magical. We felt like we had something special. I think I knew that whatever I was doing in my performance, even though I probably came off like Whitney off camera probably came off crazier than the character of Brenda. But, you know, I could tell when people, like, when the costumer would come up to me and just sort of like put his hand on my shoulder, like yes or no. And I was like, nope, I'm good for now. Or when I was crying in the makeup, you know, between scenes and between takes, there's always a throng of people that come up to you to fix whatever you just messed up, you know, and their name is on it. So they get to fix whatever they want, right? Because I don't get to ruin their work and then their name is on it, right? So, but the makeup artist specifically, I've never had this experience where a makeup artist will come up and say, do you want? And I would just go, can we do it right? And she'd go, yep. And it was a magical type of teamwork that I've never seen before on a set, where people were really trying to make sure I was able to go as far as I think the Howard deserved to have me go, and the writer Sane Hoffman. And I feel so grateful that everyone, and you know, and then between takes or when I was beating myself up and someone could tell, you know, because I was like, oh God, I didn't nail that, or I wasn't in that, or I started, you know, I examined myself, like, you know, as an actor, as soon as you're in the scene and you go, oh, that wasn't good, you're out of it. And then I would beat myself up, and people on the set would come up to me, you know, women, and they would go like, I just want you to know, this is like, I have a story like this. And, you know, and it kept me going, you know, so it was such a team effort. Like, I feel like I'm such a small part of this. So it kind of blows my mind that I'm the person talking about it, because I just feel like everyone involved, you know, had as big a impact as I did.
So for my last question, when I saw the episode, I thought that Brenda had a complex personality and shared jokes when she was feeling uncomfortable. It
Yep.
reminded me a little of Max from Two Broke Girls. That
Yeah.
you
Oh gosh.
a creator. So my question is, how did you prepare to play Brenda, and what do you think is the most important message that Brenda's story can share to the audience?
I'm going to answer your first question first, if our second question first, if that's okay, which is, I think the most important message that Brenda's, you know, journey can, you know, relay to the audience, or the show, you know, in general does. I think that what the show does is it, I believe, holds a mirror up to people's internalized sexism, homophobia, misogyny, any prejudices. You know, if you tell, and in America, I'm sure you've heard, you know, there's a lot of consternation. There's a lot of, you know, we're sort of not particularly unified at the moment as a country. And there's a good reason for that. It's not necessarily, you know, our fault right now. And I'm also not qualified to weigh in on exactly why, but you tell someone about their ignorance, they just recoil deeper, and their ego is involved, and you're basically telling someone they're dumb. You can't do that. They're going to go, no, you're dumb. And it's not, I think, great art and great storytelling, instead of, you know, just going, you're ignorant and you're a racist and you're this, which might all be true. But if someone can't see themselves and doesn't have self-awareness, it's just going to make them angrier and worse. Right. So not to say that there isn't a place for just like shaming people, but as a comedian, I always go, like, the way that we get messages to people is we tell them in these stories and we make the jokes, and then you don't even realize that you're being confronted with, you know, sort of like your own, you know, with a mirror to look at yourself. You know, what you laugh at tells me everything you need to know about you. Right. So I think that this show does a really incredible job of disarming you enough, and it's so specific that it's universal, all the stories, so that you're able to go like, oh, well, he did it. He did it. Of course he did it. And then the next scene, you see more information. You're like, ugh, I just thought he was guilty based on my assumptions, based on my internalized, like, why did I think that? You know, it does such an incredible job of making you realize who you think is guilty based on what you're guilty of, you know? So it's kind of like, I learned so much about myself watching the Michael Chiklis episode, because I was like, oh no, he should do this. And then he does something else. I'm like, oh God, the fact that I thought he should do that says more about me than about him. And I really have to take a good hard look at myself. And then I think Brenda's story in particular, I think really shows people, you know, there's been such a reckoning worldwide in, you know, women's bodies, and who do they belong to? And is there any chance that my body can be mine at all? Like, is there any glimmer of possibility that I don't get hugged when I don't want to get hugged, or, you know, don't have to be touched if I don't want to be touched, all the way down to I should feel safe in my place of work, right? If someone has power, of course I can't leave the room because otherwise I'll get fired. Right. So I think that Brenda's particular story shows that, I hope, showing a lot of people that, you know, this, oh, well, she's desperate. She threw herself at him. She wears a mini skirt, doesn't necessarily equate to like, oh, well, it's her fault. Also, she slept with him before consensually. That doesn't mean sex is going to just be consensual forever. I mean, that's a very kind of new sort of thought to a lot of people. And I think if a woman comes forward and says, I've had this horrific experience with this man, and they say, oh, and by the way, he's my ex-boyfriend, or we've slept together, they go like, just sounds like a domestic spat. This doesn't feel like a crime, you know? And I think we really wanted to confront people with their prejudices about women, about how much people need women to be a perfect victim. Like, we'll believe her if she wears suits from Banana Republic. We'll believe her if she wears, you know, certain clothes, wears her hair a certain way, has a certain education, has a certain socioeconomic background. If she's if she's gorgeous, we'll believe her more than someone that, you know, I don't want to, you know. So we worked really hard to make Brenda kind of not be particularly attractive to men because of her personality. Want to make her very acidic, very rough, very confrontational, have less femininity, because she never wants to be pitied, and she's had to have so much armor on so that men would kind of go, well, I don't want to sleep with her. So obviously, like, who would assault her? Who would want that so bad they'd fight for it, kind of thing. And so every decision we made was to help kind of the viewer confront their own internalized social constructions, etc. And it was a really fun process because I had to be confronted with a lot of my own. You know, I just doing the show, I realized like, oh wow, you have internalized sexism here. You like, you know, I put on her costume that we put together, and I instantly was like, oh, like this, I would cross the street if I saw this person walking toward me. And like, I need to look at that. And, you know, I really learned a lot by just, you know, walking in Brenda's shoes, quite literally, how much discomfort she's in all the time, physically, emotionally, what she does to sort of anesthetize. You know, in our country, we have this thing where like all these people are on drugs and all these people are addicted to opioids. And yes, of course, like, you know, it's disgusting how that has happened and has been forced on people. But then, you know, having a lot of addiction in my family, you go like, hold on. Yes, let's, you know, look at this, but not through a lens of, if you shame people, use drugs because they are trying to combat shame. So shaming them is just going to make it worse. Right. And no one ever bothers to ask, why did they feel the need to risk their lives to feel good for 3 hours? Like, what's going on? Like, why have they been born into a world where it's so hard to tolerate reality? Let's look at that. You know, why would someone want to check out this desperately and risk their lives? Right. And I think as a society, we don't do that a lot. We just go like, they're drug addicts, send them away, put them in a cage, like, you know, give them a methadone clinic or whatever. We don't go, think about how much pain you'd have to be in to take 100 milligrams of OxyContin and then drive your kid to school or whatever it is, you know? So I think we really had to go backwards from our instincts and of like, well, you're an addict, you're weak, you're an addict, you're a danger to society, you're an alcoholic, you're a danger to people, you know, and go, why would, no one wants to be an addict. No one wants to be an alcoholic. No one wants to be the person who's still drinking 2 bottles of wine a day at 40 and broke. Like, no one wants that, you know? So no one wakes up in the morning is like, I'm going to be the person that day drinks and can never find my keys. Like, no one wants to be that girl, right? They got it honestly, whether it was epigenetic imprinting or ancestral trauma or nature, nurture, whatever it was. So we really dug in to make sure that we weren't the character we didn't want the audience to judge. We weren't judging her, because a lot of my judgments came up. And you know, I would even think to myself, I'm like, well, of course you're like, I would like be mad at Brenda in my head as Whitney. I'd be like, this is going to sound nuts, but I'd be like, Brenda, like, why would you wear this? Like, no one's going to take you seriously in this. Like, you know that. Why can't you just wear a pair of jeans? You know what I mean? Like, why can't you just do it the way I did it? You know? And I really had to get out of that in order to fully like surrender to her psyche. And I'll stop talking there because I feel like that might be a good stopping point.
Thank you.
Because I will talk about this show unprompted for hours. I love it so much.
Of course. it was a great episode, so congrats for it. And it was lovely to meet you and to talk with you.
It's also, I'm so grateful that everyone I've talked to, you know, in international press, it seems to have really, you know, transcended, you know, cultural mores, you know, it's something that, and that's something so magical. I think we also wanted to go like, we want to make sure this works everywhere, not just in America. So I'm so grateful that you say that.
Thank you again for being here with me.
Thank you. What an honor.
I did what I did because I had to.
The legal system did nothing.
They are good people. Caught up in a bad situation.
Accused. Nova série. Quinta 9 à noite. No AXN.